The ancient warning, long before the great wars of the stars, before empires of metal spread across galaxies, there was a warning. It was not carved in stone or written in light, but whispered from one generation to another. The alien elders spoke it in low voices, never loud, as if the very sound of the words could bring danger. Their message was always the same: never provoke the humans. No one knew exactly when the warning began. Some said it was tens of thousands of years old, born in the ashes of a forgotten war. Others believed it was much older, a truth carried in the memory of the universe itself. What mattered was not its age, but its weight. Every council, every gathering of species that had once touched the humans carried the same fear. The elders had lived long lives. They remembered events that younger ones called myths. They remembered how planets burned when humans were angered. They remembered fleets that vanished into silence after crossing humanity. They remembered battles that ended before they even began, because humans fought not like other species. They fought as if survival itself was their only law. Still, new generations grew bold. To them, the warnings felt old and heavy, like dust on ancient books. They had never seen humans in battle. They had never watched human eyes turn cold and steady in the face of impossible odds. To them, humans were only another fragile species, thin-skinned and short-lived. Why fear them? The young asked. Why obey old stories? The elders gave no clear answer. They only shook their heads and repeated the same line: never challenge them. Never test them. Never bring their anger upon us. In the great hall of the council, carved from crystal and shadow, one young alien rose and laughed. His name was Kale. He was proud, sharp-tongued and arrogant, with scales that gleamed like steel under the firelight. He looked at the gathering of elders, his voice echoing, "Humans, they are only myths. Their bodies are weak, their lives short. Why do we bow to shadows of the past? Why do we let fear guide us?" The hall grew silent. The oldest of the elders, with skin like folded parchment and eyes dim with centuries, lifted his head. His voice trembled with age but carried power. "You speak with pride, Kale. Pride blinds the mind. You think you know strength, but you have never seen true strength. I was there when the humans were provoked. I was there when worlds fell silent. I was there when the proud screamed as fire consumed their fleets. Do not speak lightly of them." But Kale laughed again. "Old tales. Nothing more. I do not believe in these ghost stories. If humans are so dangerous, let one face me. Let one prove the words of the elders." The crowd gasped. The challenge hung in the air like smoke. None had ever spoken such words in public before. The elders' eyes darkened with dread. A young voice in the crowd whispered, "Will a human hear him?" Will they answer? No one knew. Yet the warning said humans always answered. They did not ignore a challenge. They never turned away from confrontation. That was what made them dangerous. The hall broke into murmurs. Some were afraid, some were curious, and some, like Kale, were excited. They wanted to see the truth for themselves. They wanted to test the old words. That night the elders gathered in private chambers. Their faces were pale with worry. One of them spoke, her voice low. "He has broken the silence. He has invited them." Another shook his head. "Perhaps they will not hear." But the eldest elder closed his eyes. "They will hear. They always hear. And when they do, it will be too late to turn back." Far away, across black seas of stars, humans lived in their scattered colonies. Some in great cities of glass and steel, some on frontier worlds, where survival meant fighting storms and beasts. To them, life was always a test, always a struggle. They did not fear death, for they had faced it too many times. When the message of Kale's words reached human ears, no one was surprised. A challenge had been spoken, and humanity did not walk away from challenges. But the human who stepped forward was not a general, not a warrior, not a king. He was quiet, ordinary in appearance, his clothes simple, his eyes steady. He did not boast. He did not laugh. He only agreed to the challenge. Back in the council hall, when the elders heard the name of the human who had accepted, their hearts sank. They whispered among themselves, their voices trembling. Why him? Why did it have to be him? The young aliens did not understand. To them, the human looked harmless, even weak. But the elders knew. They had seen eyes like his before. They had seen what followed. And so the warning stood again in their minds, heavier than ever. Never provoke the humans. But it was too late. The challenge had been made, and the human had answered. The hall prepared for the coming day, when Kyle would face the one who carried the truth of the warning. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the whispers of fear. Some prayed Kyle would withdraw. Others hoped the human would not come. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. The wheels of fate were already turning. The ancient warning, ignored for too long, was about to show its meaning once again. The challenge. The day of the challenge arrived. The crystal hall of the council, built on a mountain of black stone, filled with thousands of eyes. Some came to see history. Others came to prove the elders wrong. And a few came only to witness blood. Kyle stood tall at the center of the arena. His scales glistened under the light, sharp ridges running down his arms and back like armor. His chest swelled with pride as he looked around the crowd. They cheered his name, their voices echoing through the hall. Kyle raised his hand, smiling. He wanted the cheers. He wanted the glory. But when the human walked in, the cheering stopped. The silence fell so quickly that even Kyle noticed. He turned his head and frowned. The human did not shine like Kyle. He had no scales, no armor, no glowing weapons strapped to his back. His body was thin compared to the heavy build of Kyle's people. His face was calm, without anger or fear. The human's steps were slow, measured, and strangely heavy in the silent air. Every sound of his boots against the stone floor echoed, louder than Kyle expected. It was as if each step carried a weight, unseen by the eye. Kyle laughed, breaking the silence. This is the one. This is the threat. This is who the elders fear. His words carried arrogance, but his laughter did not spread far. The crowd looked uneasy. The human said nothing. He did not bow. He did not raise his hands in greeting. He simply stood across from Kyle and looked at him. His gaze was steady, not sharp, not hateful. Just steady. One of the younger aliens whispered in the crowd, "Why does he look like that? Why does he not speak?" The eldest elder closed his eyes. "Because he does not need to." Kyle stretched his arms, his claws shining. "I will end this quickly. I will show all of you that humans are nothing but weak creatures who hide behind myths." He took his stance, his body low and powerful. The ground trembled slightly as he pressed his feet into the stone. His breath came fast, heavy, ready for the strike, but the human did not move. He stood as if nothing around him mattered. His chest rose and fell slowly. His arms hung at his sides. His eyes never left Kale. The crowd murmured again. Some thought the human was frozen by fear. Others thought he was mocking Kyle. Only the elders knew better. They had seen this posture before, in the moments before entire fleets disappeared. A horn sounded, marking the beginning of the challenge. Kyle wasted no time. With a roar that shook the walls, he leapt forward. His claws cut through the air, sharp and fast. His body moved like lightning, every muscle trained for war. The human stepped aside. No struggle, no rush, no sound of effort. Just a single step, smooth and perfect, and Kyle's claws met empty air. He stumbled, his momentum carrying him too far. The crowd gasped. Kyle spun, his anger rising. He slashed again, faster this time, aiming for the human's throat. Once more the human moved, not with speed but with timing. A tilt of the head, a shift of the shoulder, and Kyle's strike cut nothing but air again. The sound of his claws scraping the stone floor rang out. Sharp and painful, the human's face never changed. Calm, still, watching. Kyle roared louder, his pride bleeding into rage. He attacked again and again, claws flashing, his tail whipping, his body twisting with strength and speed. Dust rose in clouds. The air filled with the sound of claws striking stone, of Kyle's heavy breath, of his growls of fury, and through it all the human only moved enough to avoid each strike. A step back, a shift to the side, a turn of the wrist. He did not strike back. He did not raise his hands to fight. He simply avoided. The crowd began to whisper. Some were frightened, some were confused, and some were silent. their faces pale, for they were beginning to understand. Kyle's chest heaved with effort. His claws were chipped from scraping stone. His breath came heavy and uneven. His eyes burned with anger and confusion. He looked at the human, who had not taken a single step backward beyond what was needed. "You mock me," Kyle shouted. "Fight me! Show me this power your people are feared for." The human finally spoke. His voice was quiet, steady, carrying no anger. Yet every ear in the hall heard it clearly. "Why would I need to fight you?" The words struck like a blade of ice. Kale froze for a moment, his rage boiling into something unfamiliar. Doubt. The crowd fell silent again. Even the elders leaned forward, their faces grave. The human slowly raised his hand. Not in a fist, not in attack, but as if showing Kale something invisible. His eyes met Kale's. For the first time, Kale felt something deep in his chest, something he did not understand. Fear. The elders whispered as one. "He has begun," Kyle snarled, but the sound cracked with weakness. He forced himself forward once more, determined to end it. His claws came down in a final strike. All his strength poured into one blow. The human moved only once, a single step forward. A single strike of his own, so fast and clean that no one saw it clearly. The hall went silent. Kale staggered back, his body trembling. His claws stopped midair. His eyes widened. He dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. The human lowered his hand and stood still again. His voice came soft, but it cut through the silence. The warning was not a lie. The crowd erupted in gasps and cries. The challenge was not finished yet, but everyone understood. The ancient words were alive, and Kale, the arrogant challenger, had just touched the edge of a truth far greater than pride. The human response. The hall was heavy with silence. Kale knelt on the stone floor, his chest heaving, his claws shaking, his pride shattered. The crowd of aliens that once cheered for him now watched in confusion and unease. They had expected glory. They had expected Kale to crush the fragile human. Instead, they were seeing something else, something far more dangerous. The human stood still. His breathing was calm, slow, as if he had not even begun to fight. His eyes never moved from Kale, but they did not hold hatred. They held something colder, a calm certainty. "A quiet knowing," Kale growled, forcing himself back to his feet. His scales glistened with sweat, his muscles trembling, but his pride still screamed within him. He wanted to rise. He wanted to prove the elders wrong. You think you have beaten me," Kyle spat, his voice breaking. "But I am not finished. I will not bow to a weak creature like you." The human finally stepped forward. Just one step. The sound of his boot against the stone floor echoed through the hall louder than Kale's roar. Every alien in the chamber felt the weight of that sound. It was not just a step, it was a promise. Kyle flinched. His body moved without his mind's command. For the first time in his life, he stepped back. The crowd gasped. A warrior like Kyle retreating. The human's voice broke the silence. Calm, low, clear. "You were warned." The words carried no anger, no hatred, only truth. The kind of truth that weighed more than stone and cut deeper than steel. Kyle's throat tightened. His arrogance fought to rise again, but his body trembled. He had faced hundreds of fighters before. He had trained all his life to be faster, stronger, sharper. But this human had not even tried. And yet Kale felt crushed. The elders exchanged dark glances. One of them whispered, "It begins the same way it always begins." The young aliens leaned closer, whispering among themselves. "Why is he not attacking? Why does he not finish Kyle?" The eldest elder closed his eyes. "Because humans do not fight to prove pride. They fight only when they must. And when they do, there is no one in the galaxy who can match them." Kyle roared again, though the sound was cracked and weak. He charged, his claws shining, his tail whipping with desperate strength. His body moved with all the fury left inside him, but the human was already there. Not moving fast, not with sudden bursts of speed, but with perfect timing. His hand met Kyle's wrist, stopping the claw mid-air. A twist, simple and clean, sent Kale spinning to the ground. His body crashed against the stone, the sound echoing like thunder. The human did not strike again. He simply stood over Kyle, his shadow falling across the broken warrior. "Why?" Kyle gasped, his voice filled with anger and confusion. "Why do you not finish me? If you are as powerful as they say, then end this. Kill me and prove the warning true." The human's expression did not change. His voice remained calm. "Because I do not need to kill you. You will carry the truth yourself. That is enough." Kyle froze. His body trembled. His mind searched for words but found nothing. For the first time in his life, he felt something greater than pain, greater than shame. He felt the weight of truth pressing against his chest. The crowd erupted into murmurs. Some shouted that the human was mocking Kale. Others whispered that the human had already won. And a few, the quietest ones, felt the dread growing inside them, the dread that the elders had never lied. The human turned away from Kyle. He walked toward the center of the hall, his boots striking the floor with the same heavy sound. Every step echoed. Every step silenced the crowd. He looked at the gathered aliens, his gaze moving across their faces, young and old. His voice filled the chamber, calm yet unshakable. "You believed the warnings were myths. You thought the elders spoke out of fear, but they spoke out of memory. They remembered what happens when humans are provoked. They remembered the wars, the fire, the silence that follows. You did not listen." The crowd was silent now, all eyes locked on him. "We do not seek war. We do not seek to rule. But when you come for us, when you test us, when you challenge us, then you will see why the elders whispered those words. You will see why you should never provoke us." A shiver ran through the hall. Even the proudest of the young aliens lowered their heads. The human's voice was not a threat, but a statement of fact. Kyle remained on the ground, his pride shattered. He could not rise. He could not speak. The human's words had cut deeper than any blade. The eldest elder stepped forward slowly, his cane tapping against the stone. His eyes glistened with sorrow. "This is what I tried to tell you," he said to the younger ones. "This is why we never speak against them. You have now seen with your own eyes what we have always known." The human turned his gaze on the elder for a brief moment. A silent exchange passed between them, an understanding that needed no words. Then he looked back at Kyle, his voice quiet, almost like a whisper. "You thought strength was in your claws. You thought power was in your pride. But strength is something deeper. It is something you do not understand. And now it is too late to unlearn." With that, the human lowered his hand and turned his back on Kyle. He walked away slowly, without fear of an attack from behind. For he knew Kyle would not rise again. The challenge was finished. But the story was not. The human had shown only the surface of truth. What lay beneath was far more terrifying, and the galaxy had only begun to remember it. The unseen power. The council hall stood frozen. The challenge was over, but no one moved. No one spoke. Kyle remained on the floor, his chest rising and falling in broken rhythm, his pride gone. The human had not killed him, had not even struck him with violence. Yet the defeat was clear. The silence stretched, heavy as iron. Then, slowly, whispers began to flow through the crowd. He did not even fight. Was that really all? Was that their power? He humiliated Kyle without effort, but the elders said nothing. Their faces were carved with dread. They knew this was only the beginning. The human stood in the center, still and calm, his eyes scanning the chamber. He was not proud. He was not smiling. He looked as though he carried a burden rather than a victory. That unsettled the young aliens more than Kale's fall, because if this was not pride, then what was it? Kyle groaned, trying to rise once more. His body trembled, his claws scratched against the stone floor, but his legs would not hold him. He forced his head up and shouted, his voice filled with rage and shame. You think this proves something? You think this is power? You avoided me. You tricked me. You are nothing without your games. Face me with true strength." The human turned slowly, his eyes falling on Kale again. He did not answer right away. The silence itself pressed against the crowd like a storm. Then his voice came quiet and steady. "You wish to see true strength? You would not survive it." Kale's chest tightened. His rage burned, but deep inside, fear gnawed at him. Yet his pride pushed him forward. "Show me," Kyle demanded, his voice breaking. "Show us all. If humans are so feared, prove it. Prove the warning was real." The elders stirred, their voices rising at once. "No, do not ask for this. Do not push him further." But Kyle ignored them. The young in the crowd leaned forward, hungry for spectacle. They wanted more than words. They wanted proof. The human's eyes darkened, his face still calm but heavier now. He raised his hand and clenched it slowly into a fist. The hall seemed to change, though no one could explain how. The air grew heavier. The lights of the crystal walls dimmed, as if shadows had crept inside. The stone floor trembled, soft at first, then stronger, like the heartbeat of the planet itself had quickened. Whispers stopped. Gasps filled the silence. "What is happening? Is this him? Is this what the elders feared?" The human stepped forward. Just a single step. But the sound rolled across the chamber like thunder. Every alien felt it, not with their ears, but in their bones. A wave of pressure, invisible yet undeniable, pushed against them. Kyle's eyes widened. His breath caught in his throat. His body wanted to move back, but he forced himself to stay. His pride chained him in place, though fear screamed inside him. The human's voice broke through the rising weight in the air. "You think strength is in your claws. You think power is in fear and control. But real power, real strength, is not seen until it is too late." His eyes locked onto Kyle. For the first time, Kyle saw something inside them, something that made his blood run cold. It was not anger. It was not hatred. It was something worse. A depth without end. A will that could not be broken. The crowd felt it too. Their bodies shook, though the human had not touched them. The air pressed against their chests, making it hard to breathe. Even the youngest among them felt their pride shatter into silence. The elders bowed their heads. They had seen this before. Kyle finally broke. His knees gave way. He fell fully to the ground, gasping for air. His claws scraped the floor, but there was no fight left in him. His pride had been stripped away, leaving only fear. The human lowered his hand, and the pressure vanished. The air lightened. The trembling stopped. The crystal walls brightened again, but the silence remained. No one cheered. No one shouted. No one moved. The human spoke again, his voice softer now, almost sad. "This is why the warning was given. This is why the elders begged you to listen. You think of war as pride, as glory, as proof of strength. But war with humans is not glory. It is silence. It is endings. We do not celebrate it. We endure it." His eyes swept across the hall, meeting the gaze of every alien he could. Each one felt as if the words were meant only for them. "If you push us, if you challenge us, you will not remember victory. You will not remember honor. You will only remember the silence that follows." The weight of his words sank into every heart. The younger ones who had mocked the elders now lowered their heads in shame. Some trembled. Some wept quietly. And some, though they tried to hide it, began to understand. Kyle lay broken on the ground, his eyes wide, his voice gone. He had wanted to see true strength, and he had seen it. Not in blows, not in blood, but in the quiet power of a human who had revealed only a fraction of what lay beneath. The elders stepped forward, their faces lined with sorrow. One of them spoke, his voice low and grave. "This is why we never provoke them. This is why we never test them." The warning was not fear, it was survival. The human did not look proud. He did not look victorious. He only turned and began to walk away. His steps echoed again, heavy and steady. Each one left the crowd in silence, for they now knew the truth. The unseen power of humanity was real, and it was something the galaxy could never truly face without breaking. The price of ignoring the warning. The human's steps faded into silence, but the weight of his presence did not leave the hall. The crowd remained frozen, their eyes wide, their breaths shallow. Some tried to speak but found no words. Others simply bowed their heads as if afraid that even whispers might bring his gaze back upon them. Kyle still lay on the floor. His body trembled, but it was not from pain. It was from the truth that now burned inside him. He had wanted to test the humans. He had wanted to prove his pride. But now he wished only that he had listened to the warning. The elders gathered near him. Their faces were not filled with anger or triumph, but sorrow. One of them, the eldest, placed a thin hand on Kyle's shoulder. His voice shook, heavy with memory. "You asked to see what lies behind the warning. Now you understand. But you saw only a shadow of what humans truly hold inside. A shadow was enough to break you. Imagine what the full light would do to us all." Kyle swallowed hard, his throat dry. His pride wanted to answer, but his fear chained his voice. For the first time in his life, Kyle had nothing left to say. The elder turned to the rest of the crowd. His eyes swept across the faces of the young and the curious, the doubtful and the arrogant. "You thought the warnings were tales. You thought they were old fear carried too long. But you forget, we did not invent those stories. We lived them." The chamber fell silent again. Every word of the elder carried weight, for now the crowd believed. The elder closed his eyes, as if seeing something long buried. His voice softened, yet it carried to every corner of the hall. "I was there when a proud empire thought they could enslave humans. Their fleets were vast, their weapons sharp. They believed victory was certain. And at first they burned human colonies. They crushed human armies. They laughed at how fragile their bodies were." He paused, his hands trembling. The crowd leaned closer, afraid yet drawn in. But the humans did not break. They did not beg. They did not vanish. They endured. And then they answered. The fleets rose from the ashes. Their armies grew stronger with each defeat. They learned faster than any of us had seen. And when they came back, the stars themselves seemed to burn with their fury. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Some younger aliens shook their heads, not in disbelief now, but in fear of what they were hearing. The elder's voice grew heavier. Worlds were turned to silence. Empires that had ruled for thousands of years vanished in a single generation. The proud who mocked them were buried under fire and steel. And when it was over, the humans did not sing songs of victory. They only buried their dead, and they whispered a truth we never forgot. His eyes opened, sharp and clear. That truth was this: never provoke the humans. The crowd shivered. Even the boldest of the young lowered their heads. Kale finally found his voice, though it was broken and weak. "But why did they let us live? If they hold such power, why have they not ruled us all?" The elder looked down at him, sadness deep in his eyes. "Because they do not crave rule. That is what makes them more dangerous. They fight only when pushed. They rise only when threatened. And when they rise, they do not stop until nothing stands in their way." Kyle's eyes widened. He realized then the cruelest truth. Humanity's power was not born from hunger for conquest, but from survival itself. That kind of power could not be broken, could not be tamed. The chamber was silent again. Only the faint sound of the human's fading footsteps lingered in memory. Though he had already left, the elder straightened his frail body, his voice carrying like a final warning. "Remember what you saw today. Remember what he showed you without even trying." This was mercy. This was restraint. If you push further, if you awaken their fury once more, the galaxy will drown in silence. And none of us will escape it. Kyle bowed his head, tears burning in his eyes. For the first time, he felt the weight of humility. The younger aliens left the hall quietly, their hearts heavy. No one mocked the humans anymore. No one dared to question the warning again. The silence they had felt was enough to stay with them forever. And far away, in the cold reaches of space, humanity remained watchful. They did not boast. They did not send warnings. They simply lived quiet and steady. But those who had seen them knew the truth. When provoked, when tested, when forced to rise, humans would remind the stars why they were feared. The elders had spoken. The galaxy had been reminded. The warning would never again be ignored.